I think it's important to remind people that American children are probably about to go hungry while the guy who has the power, all of the power, to do something about it, is too busy redecorating a golden ballroom. I mean, reached for comment, Marie Antoinette's ghost said, "Wow, the optics of this are terrible."
Well, at least she gave the poor cake.
Cake in this economy?
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us here at Westminster to Washington, the podcast that looks at the unholy alliance that seems to be occurring between the US and the UK. My name is Matt Johnston. I host a show called The Interesting Times, obviously from the UK, and from the US is my co-host, Andrea Bridges-Smith, who hosts the Phoenix News Network. So, Andrea, you've just come back from vacation, or holiday as we call it over here, and not sure what the difference is. How was it?
It was really lovely. I escaped the Texas heat and I ran off to the mountains and I spent my time hiking and eating and not reading the news. And I have to say, Matt, that this whole paying lots of attention to the news thing that we do, we might be getting that wrong.
Yeah. Sometimes it is important to take a break. Okay, break time's over. Let's get back to it.
Great. That was exactly long enough to heal the brokenness in my soul. So, Matt, obviously everything's going fully to shit over here. So in my ongoing effort to avoid that as long as possible, why don't you start by telling me what's going on over there?
I'm not sure things are a lot better over here. Okay.
Terrific.
I mean, the news is still fairly full on and depressing. We're actually in a bit of a race to see who can get more racist than you guys, I guess.
Oh, okay. Well, that will be tough. Have you considered rounding up non-white people and putting them in some sort of like restricted area?
Well, hold fire on that one. Yeah. We're all making a good little bit of a laughter here, but yeah, we'll come back to it, shall we say? So,
Yeah.
I want to tackle some lighter racist news, and I appreciate saying that something lighter is better. It's also objectively racist. So, an MP for reform, I mean, who else really really kind of set the tone over here? A woman called Sarah Potchin, who went on Talk TV, equivalent of Fox TV, I suppose, and complains about the number of black and Asian people she sees in adverts on the telly. In fact, she says something along the lines of, it makes her really mad to see black and Asian people on the adverts.
Okay, well, I don't think that that's Britain's biggest problem or should be anyone else's problem. Maybe she should see a therapist about her anger
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah, I think it's her biggest problem, which sort of tells you all you need to know, doesn't it, really? She did
Sure.
then apologize, yeah, but it says something that all the politicians seem to be rather reluctant to say that this is racism when it clearly is. They're just using euphemistic sentences well, I wouldn't have said that. When in all honesty, they probably would have said that, but just not anywhere where it was likely to be recorded.
No, they have definitely texted that sort of thing to each other in a WhatsApp group of the worst people imaginable, I promise you.
Yeah, yeah, just a load of them and Pete Hegseth.
Right, right.
So on to the heavier stuff. Sorry, bit weightist, I know. And some of the politicians have all been trying to outdo each other on the immigration front. It's the same over here as it is over there. It's supposed to be the number one issue. It's only because everybody's talking about it. Anyway, just to show how tough they can be, right? Now, a woman called Katie Lamb, who is a Tory. Yes, that's who else. When I talked about who else apart from Reform, a Tory, that's who else.
Yes,
So
yes.
she was only elected last year, but she has been touted as the future leader of the Conservatives. And that future might be sooner than people think, as the Lamb for Leader website has already been signed up.
Oh, okay. Well, what does Kemi Badenoch have to say about that?
I think Kemi's starting to realise people only elected her to show how non-racist they were, so her pointing out racism in other people isn't going to go down very well with them.
Right.
Anyway, Katie's been doing the Too Many Foreigners tour of all the media. She's basically said that even those who are legally here on something called ILR, which is indefinite leave to remain, I mean, the clue's in the title, right? But even they should be kicked out of the country if they've ever claimed benefits. Now, that is going to be an interesting conversation with Kemi. I've got your job. Also, here are your papers. Happy travels.
Right, right, right. Okay, before we go any further, I need to talk about the name indefinite leave to remain, which is both confusing. Are we leaving? Are we remaining? And a rather good description of how the Brexit process has dragged on.
Yeah, it is actually. When you look at the Brexit process, indefinite leave to leave, I suppose it is now more indefinite leave to remain. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's about as well as it's going. Yes. Well, indefinite leave to remain. All right. In a nutshell, it's like a citizenship thing, if you like. So essentially,
Oh.
people, before they become a citizenship of the country, they will gain themselves indefinite leave to remain. They don't. It doesn't always follow that rate. For a lot of people, it will be that it's to be able to live, work, study, whatever in the UK without any time limits. That's about it, really.
Gotcha. Okay, okay. And because just immigrants, like, they've got to go? Is that what's being said now?
It's the whole thing where, yes, it's our latest good idea, if you like. Vote for us because we've got this as our latest good idea. The Tories have now taken on the same one's reform, which is to lead the European Court of Human Rights, irrespective of the fact the European Court of Human Rights, by its very name, give us a load of rights, for humans. And I'm quite attached to my human rights. Yeah, I would like to keep
Those
my
old
human rights.
things. All right, well, I
Anyway,
guess some people do.
yeah, it's I do worry about where it's all going to end up. What's happening as well at the moment is we're attempting to start the grooming gangs inquiry. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but basically, we had a whole business. It's a horrible business where, in about 10 or 20 years ago, groups of men would basically groom underage girls in order to have sex with them. And
Yeah.
there was various cover-ups, probably, but it's unclear by who the cover-ups were sort of implementing these cover-ups. Was it politicians? Was it the police? Was it social workers? So that's hopefully what this inquiry will get to the bottom of. Now, a disproportionate amount are in fact Pakistani men where this has happened. And of
Ah,
course, the racists have jumped all over this. So,
right.
Nigel Farage is front and center on this, even though up until this point, he never really gave a crap. He never gave this a moment's thought. But as soon as he saw it at an opportunity to gain some votes, it's been depressingly opportunistic.
Well, I mean, Matt, in all fairness, as we all know, that immigrants are the only ones who commit those kind of crimes. Prince Andrew, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just had a little tickle in my throat there. Excuse me.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I appreciate your tickle. Sorry, that's came out completely sort of wrong. I beg your pardon. Um, what I would say is that somebody else pointed out that, in fact, there was these grooming gangs that operate out of Scotland, all white grooming gangs. Some of them were kind of like junkies, where some of them that had alcohol dependency. Invariably, the one thing they all had in common was that they were all men, essentially. Are we familiar with the Lost Prophets?
No.
They're a rock group over here. I'd never heard of them until their lead singer, oh God, what was his name? Somebody in the comments will be able to tell us, please. Thank you. But the lead singer was caught and arrested for basically abusing children or something like that. Horrible, horrible sort of business. Anyway, the other week he got stabbed. So there you go.
Oh,
That's yeah, in prison he got shanked. Is that the right term? Sorry,
I
this
don't
whole thing is
100%
taking
hate
on a
that.
very dark term. I do apologize. We got on very dark rather quickly. Anyway, yeah, I'll leave that thing there. Enough about our ever rapidly speeding descent into what you have, or good God, even something even worse. What news from the new country, Andrea? What have you got?
Well, you want me to cheer you up with news from over here? Tall order. Let's see what we can do. So you remember a couple weeks ago when we talked about how the government was shut down?
Yes.
Well, it's still shut down, and things are starting to get pretty dicey. Well, more dicey, I guess. They've been dicier than a Vegas craps table for quite some time.
That's pretty dicey. No end in sight then.
So far, not yet. And I didn't know this until this week, but about 12% of Americans, or about 40 million people, rely on the government for some kind of assistance with food. And as food has gotten more and more expensive, thank you, Captain Tariffs, that number has been going up. Now, because of the government shutdown, Trump is saying that all of that food assistance is going to stop going out on November 1st in just a few days, unless some sort of deal can be struck before then. We're the richest country in the world, and I guess we're about to start letting children starve.
Yeah. I mean, how indeed, why did this happen, Andrea?
Well, just a reminder for anybody who is, wondering why this is going on. So Republicans want to sign a budget that will keep the government open for a short amount of time, basically kicking the can down the road yet again. So they'll say like, oh, we'll fund the government through like January 1st. And it's like, well, then fuck, in 2 months, we have to go through this mess all over again. Why? Uh, Democrats want to make sure that whatever budget gets passed includes subsidies for healthcare because those are about to expire and healthcare is about to get a lot more expensive. So just to give you an example, there's a retired couple in Idaho who makes about $42,000 a year, and they pay $51 a month for their health insurance plan. That's pretty reasonable. Not as reasonable as what you guys have, where you don't have to pay for that, but well enough. Now, they got notice that without these subsidies, that their plan is going to increase to about $2,200 a month, or about $27,000 per year, which is 2/3 of their annual income. So the stakes of this, much like Snoop Dogg, are stubbornly high.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Now, Matt, if Keir Starmer said that your healthcare costs would now be 2/3 of your annual income, how fast do you think he'd be run out of office?
I think he would quite literally be run out of office. I genuinely, look, far be it from me, and I'm not sitting here advocating for, violence or sort of, overthrow
Nope.
of a overthrow of a democratically elected government. Okay, I'm not
Right.
talking about a coup here. But if he
Sure.
was to do that, yes. I don't even think, in fact, it would be the people that would kick him out of office. I think it would be the rest of the Labour Party that would essentially drag him out. And that's one of the beauties, I suppose, of the fact that we have that sort of system. Yes, he's the Prime Minister, but anybody on the Labour Party can also be the Prime Minister. Any MP,
Yeah.
sorry, can be the Prime Minister. In theory, I mean, that's what the Tories did, obviously, for a number of, for a couple of times. It's not great because, of course, you aren't asking the people who you'd like to run the country. But there we go. There is that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the GOP has said, just sign our plan, and then when we're back, we'll figure out the healthcare thing, we promise. But the Democrats have correctly surmised that their fingers are crossed behind their back. So they're standing their ground because it's the only thing that they can really do these days.
Never trust a Tory, or in your case, a Republican. So
Mhm.
I know I've spoken about this before, but there surely must be a point at which they get back to work, right? Is there nothing in the Constitution about this? And sound funny as well, Andrea, but honestly, this is why you need a king or queen. Oh, no, sorry, king, as queen would suggest a female leader. And we know you guys aren't ready for that yet. So what's Trump doing while all this is happening anyway? What's he doing while all this is going on?
Well, of course, while all of this is going on, Mr. Art of the Deal has been abroad in Asia inking trade deals with Japan and South Korea, but he can't get a deal from his own Congress. And he could totally cave to the Democrats and still call it a victory. I went to the Democrats and I got them to do a deal. They hate me, but we got to a deal, the best deal anyone's ever seen. If there was a Nobel Prize for deals, I'd win that in a heartbeat. The usual shit that he pulls.
Yeah.
The healthcare subsidies, they're wildly popular. Weirdly, Matt, a whole bunch of people don't want their healthcare to be more expensive. Isn't that something? So
Wow.
he would be making lots of people happy, but instead we have this pissing contest.
Or take the piss contest, as we over here might say.
Exactly. The other thing is, he has the power to stop this. In fact, the Supreme Court has given him the power to basically be a king that is accountable to no one. There is $6 billion in an emergency fund, but Trump has said that it will not be used to feed people during the government shutdown. But, to be fair to him, that money is probably already earmarked for chandeliers.
Yes, yes, he seems a bit obsessed about his ballroom, doesn't he? Overcompensating for something much?
Don't worry, we're going to get to the ballroom in just a bit. I have
Okay.
lots to say about that ballroom. But to sum it up, the government is taking our tax dollars, and in return, we get astronomically higher healthcare and food costs, which are two of the top three things Americans spend money on. The third, of course, being live, laugh, love signs. The tariffs were supposed to stimulate job growth here instead of abroad, but all the chaos with the tariffs has made business owners not want to hire right now because they have no idea what's coming next. So people who are out of a job because of tariff chaos are getting screwed with higher prices at the grocery store, also thanks to tariffs. And then when they need assistance to be able to afford the expensive food, Trump says, nope. And, all that tariff revenue, where's that going? Can we have some of that money so we can buy food? Nope.
Is the food going on the ballroom?
Yes, let's talk about this ballroom, okay? This is a wonderful juxtaposition to the sorry state of a lot of American families. Matt, I'm guessing you've heard a little bit about this.
Maybe.
So for anyone who hasn't heard, Trump tore down the east wing of the White House, which he said he wasn't going to do and then did. Shocker. He lied about something. He did that to make room for this gigantic ballroom. And since I am an American, let's talk about this thing in terms of football fields, because that is our standard of measurement. It was that or metric, and we went with football, as we always do. So a football field is about 57,000 square feet. And this ballroom is going to be 90,000 square feet. So about 1.5 football fields. Matt, curious what that is converted into a soccer field.
Okay. Well, I'll be honest, I just had to Google soccer field and it's telling me, in fact, you mean a football pitch. So
Yeah.
it's it's bigger than an American football field, and you could fairly easily fit one into his ballroom. Oh, wait, I've just realized you guys have got the World Cup next year, haven't you?
Yeah.
So if the US make it through to the final, stick with me here. I'm guessing he's going to play it there, isn't he? And then play himself up front or something, score the winning goal and then keep the trophy, of course.
Exactly. Well, here's hoping they don't break any glassware while they're at it. I think it's important to remind people that American children are probably about to go hungry while the guy who has the power, all of the power, to do something about it, is too busy redecorating a golden ballroom. I mean, reached for comment, Marie Antoinette's ghost said, wow, the optics of this are terrible.
Well, at least she gave the poor cake.
Cake in this economy?
By the way, shortly before we came on air, there was a tweet from Elon Musk responding to somebody with relation. Sorry, I'm going back to the grooming gangs scandal that we're, the inquiry, etc., that we're trying to. And he still, because it got to the point. Do you remember last summer we were talking about this and we had the riots over here and it was Elon Musk doing a lot of stirring there. He's back to it. And he's tweeted, like he tweeted last time, that civil war in this country is inevitable. It's just a question of when. Well, that's, how's that help me? I need to know, come on, Elon, I need to know when I can stock up on all my toilet rolls and stuff. But give me some clue. Is it 10 years? Is it 20 years?
Civil war is inevitable in your country. That's wild. Why would anyone be rooting for that? Why, when here, okay, let's talk about this because people say the same thing about us sometimes. Marjorie Taylor Greene in one of her wackier days was like, this country is going to bust out into civil war any minute, which actually, now that I think about it, doesn't sound that far-fetched. When it looks like a civil war is about to break out, what if everyone said, how do we avoid that? And we all kind of worked on that problem so there wouldn't be one, so it wouldn't be inevitable? Like, is that a thing we could try?
Yeah, basically. It's a way of sort of, and it's, again, down to this thing of there's my way and there is no other way, because every other way leads to all these horrible, there's no negotiation, no compromise, that sort of thing. That's sort of where we are. You feel like as well saying, hang on a minute, as a white South African, surely you can see the sort of lack of logic on this. I mean, when you're talking about civil wars and stuff and being oppressed, I'm sure there are people that you're a bit more familiar with, shall we say, in relation to that story, even if it's just um, your own countryman or any person that's ever worked for you.
Right. Yeah, it is really hard for me to not throw up in my mouth a little bit when rich guys claim to be oppressed by
Yeah.
anything. It's like, oh, cancel culture, and it's like, you have a bajillion dollars. Shut the fuck up. We can cancel you if we want. It's in fact all we can do.
Trump's another one, isn't he? He stood there in front of Meloni or whoever else and saying about, "Oh, you're a beautiful woman. Oh, you can't say that. You might get cancelled." Dude, you tried to overthrow a legitimately democratically elected government and you didn't get cancelled. You got the job again. I mean, it's impossible to. You're Teflon Trump. It's impossible to cancel you. Nothing sticks. Wow.
Exactly. And that is depressing. Well,
Off on
we're really
holiday
ending
again.
things. Yeah, yeah. I don't know why I'm back. I need to go back to the mountain and hike up it again. It's less strenuous than reading the news every day. Well, that's all we have time for today, but we will be back in a few weeks with the latest in transatlantic chaos. In the meantime, you can catch more of Matt on his channel, The Interesting Times. You can click below to get there. And we will be here throughout the week with more fiddling as the boat sinks. Till next time, goodbye.
Bye bye.